Hi, this is Dan Bullard, retired electronics engineer, sitting out on the front deck of my houseboat again. It just quit raining. I'm really hoping it won't come down anymore. I want to talk about the Bullard laws of harmonics, and I found it an interesting place. Like I said, I search the web all the time for this stuff, and I found this website that's published my laws of physics, and it's pretty cool. Here's how it starts. He says, Dan Bullard is an audio technician with decades of experience in the field. During his work, he discovered 6 laws he named after himself. Here are short explanations. Okay, now I appreciate, I really do, but this kind of does show what I'm up against, because they just still don't get it. Remember that quote that I showed you that one of my supporters came up with? A guy who's an expert can hit a target nobody else can hit. And a guy who's a genius is a guy that can hit a target no one else can see. No one else can see the humps in the spectrum. I've told you that. And my buddy Terry Wilson, I like Terry. Terry's a great guy. He got me the job at Maxim. But he said the humps in a spectrum are due to, it's an artifact. Well, nobody can see those. And I tried it on Stack Overflow. I tried asking where the humps come from, and people said, oh, well, those are harmonics. Okay, I know they're harmonics. Where do the humps come from? Nobody could answer. And I have to pretend to be dumb. I mean, you can't interact with these people unless you pretend to be dumb, and they get in arguments with you and they throw you off. So I can't go back there. I know that. I do appreciate these people touting my laws of harmonics. Let me walk you through some of these, and I'll try to explain what's really going on. Okay, Bullard law number 1. Harmonic amplitudes are proportional to the area of the distortion. The area represents the amplitude peaks of the signal wave. Depends on how loud the harmonics are. And the flatter the amplitude's peak will be. The flatter. Okay, I know where this came from. This came from an article I did on LinkedIn. And, okay, it's close. It's close, but it really doesn't say much to anybody. So, Law 1, I've told you about. It's huge. And Parseval's identity, that's the one that somebody popped up recently and said, oh yeah, did you hear of Parseval's identity? Parseval's identity explains it totally. But Parseval wasn't 100% right. And that's why I have Law 3. Okay, Law 2. The harmonic signature is the result of the angle where the sinusoid impacts the distortion as predicted by the Bullard harmonic solution. By lowering the loudness of the harmonics, you get a rounder amplitude peak of the sound wave while retaining the same harmonic signature. Again, I know where this came from. It's an article I wrote on LinkedIn. Law 2 is huge. Huge. Like I said, the people at Stack Overflow, they didn't see it. They don't understand it. The people at, I can't mention that other site, they wouldn't let me talk about it, but they didn't see where it was. And that was a 45-degree distortion. That was really cool. That was in a bearing. Okay? So these laws of harmonics are not just laws of electronic harmonics. This is laws of physics. So the vibration thing, that was a bearing that had a nick in it or something. And they put a spectrum analyzer on it. They recorded the sound and put a spectrum analyzer on it and found these things popping up, and they were harmonics. They didn't know it. They had no idea. They were a whole bunch of ridiculous assertions about what they were, but they were harmonics. And the harmonics were caused by a distortion at 45 degrees. It just so happened, totally accidentally, I had done a lot of experiments, as I've mentioned. I did a lot of experiments in Excel, and I created a distortion at 45 degrees, and it matched their harmonic signature perfectly. So their distortion was at 45 degrees, but they had no idea that angle had anything to do with it. They were making up all kinds of crazy stuff. So nobody understands Law 2. And Law 2 is huge, really huge. It applies to almost everything. It's crazy that they ignore it. Law 3. Even harmonics don't appear in symmetrical distortion because they cancel each other out. This is a good summary right here. Symmetrical distortion creates both odd and even order harmonics. However, the even harmonics on the positive side of the signal are in opposition phase to the ones on the negative side of the wave. So because of that, you get cancellation effect where the even harmonics are canceled out with each other, similar to how my printer's not working good. So, but similar to these other applications. It's not that symmetrical distortion doesn't create any even harmonics. You can't see them. It's just like, when you get paid, let's say you get paid $10,000 a month salary, and you spend $10,000 a month. How much have you got left at the end of the month? Zero. You have no money. It's better if you save a little bit. Okay, Law 4. I don't think they understood Law 4 at all. When a portion of a sine wave is removed, such as in clipping, the harmonic signature mirrors the harmonic signature of the feature removed by the sine wave. The more you cut or clip away from the amplitude peak, the more additional harmonics you get. The angle of the clipping depends on how much you clipped off. They didn't get Law 4 at all. Law 4 it seems like it's a minor point, but it's actually very, very, very important. If you remove a chunk of a waveform, and you do the FFT on that waveform, and you take the chunk that you removed, and you do an FFT on that, the harmonics will look identical. The signature will be identical. But the phases of the harmonics are 180 degrees out of phase. So, like that one guy, I think it was Stack Overflow, that one guy said that I demonstrated this, and he said that, but you're not showing the right signature. So he thought that the harmonics should be in opposition. They weren't supposed to be the same amplitude. Well, they are the same amplitude. It's the phase that subtracts them out. And you can't forget the phase. When you do an FFT, you get two chunks of data. You get the amplitude and you get the phase. Now, of course, when you start off, you get the sine and cosine in a complex form. But if you convert it to polar, you get phase and magnitude. The magnitude is what you look at on a spectrum analyzer. They never show you the phase, and it makes no sense to show you the phase. Phase is not helpful because generally the phase is just a cloud of garbage, random numbers, because noise has random phase. But if you look at just the harmonics, that brings up Law 5. I struggled with this for a long time to figure out how I could extract the phases of the harmonics. Because, like I said, if you look at a distorted sine wave and you look at the phase, you see a cloud of garbage. It's not really helpful. But if you extract everything that's a harmonic, get rid of all the noise, everything that's not a harmonic, and look at the phases of the harmonics, you get Law 5. And that is that the harmonic of a distorted sine wave will always start at 0, 90, 180, or 270 degrees relative to the fundamental. No exceptions. And that's totally true. It's really something. Now, if they don't start at those levels, then that means there's some hysteresis or some other thing that's delaying the phases. Somebody mentioned group delay. Yeah, maybe. But the explanation is, it's okay. It's not great. He said in practice, no matter what angle you clip this amplitude's peak to cause harmonic distortion, the latter will always be either 0, 90, 180, or 270 phase relative to the fundamental. So I said that. That's what the law says. And then Law 6, he didn't have an explanation for that because I don't really have an article on that. I haven't written an article on that on LinkedIn because LinkedIn changed the way they do their articles, and I really can't write anymore, so sorry about that. Law 6, the harmonic signature will be identical for distortions that happen at a reciprocal angle. So if you distort a sine wave at, say, 45 degrees, and you stored it at, I think, 225. So if you stored it at 45 and 225 and look at the spectrum, you can't tell the difference. What you can tell is if you look at the even harmonics, they're out of phase. Just the even harmonics are out of phase 180 degrees. That's all you can tell. But it kind of like loosens up law 2. It means that law 2 is really, it kind of modifies law 2. Okay. I appreciate you guys trying to figure this out, and it's great that people are thinking about what I'm saying. My books are copyrighted, and I did copyright the Bullard Laws for Harmonics, but I'm not going to go after these guys because they're pushing my stuff, and that's good. I'm going to go after the guys who steal my book, and I'm sure in China and Japan there's 1,000 copies, maybe 100,000 copies of my book printed out there. It's an 8.5 by 11 book, so you can just cut the spine off, put it in a copying machine, and your business is done. You produced a copy of my book. But you could, buy my book. Okay, I want to address the first point that he made, that I'm an experienced technician. Now, I was a technician many years ago. When I was in the Navy, I was an electronics technician. I was an ET, not the kind that flies around space or rides a bicycle through the air. I was an electronics technician, but I haven't been a technician since I left Australia. When I left Australia in 1980, the year I was married, almost 44 years ago. When I left Australia, that's the last time I'd been a technician. I've been a trainer or an applications engineer or, an inventor, a scientist for many, many, many years. When I was a trainer for Credence, I was pretty good at taking care of my customers. And when I was in Oregon, that was primo because I was a tourist in Oregon, so I learned all the tourist traps to take people to, and so I would take my customers out to Multnomah Channel. We would take half a day, and they were being trained, but I would say, okay, it's up to you guys. You want to go out to Multnomah Falls, or you want another day of training? And they say, oh, let's go to Multnomah Falls. So I would take them out to Multnomah Falls, and here's a picture of Dwayne Sorley, I think, and a couple of other people that I met when I was doing a training class. And so this was like every class I did this. And this was like a 2-week class. I would take them to Multnomah Falls or out on the Portland Spirit or all kinds of places. So I haven't been a technician for a long, long time. So I don't have a degree, so I could be a technician. But I've kind of gone beyond that. So once again, from the river, this is Dan Bullard.